Hi, this is going to be part one of my sort of build of a Revell F-105 G Thunder Chief Wild Weasel. I'm going to do a kind of step by step of how I build it. Hopefully it'll be of interest to people. This is an older kit, old monogram kit. Somewhere I have done a review, inbox review of this, so check out my YouTube if you want to see that. I can't remember the exact year. I've got a feeling it is somewhere on one of the parts, but we'll discover that as we go along. Basically, all I've done so far is I've taken all the bits off the sprues. As with most Revell kits, you've got a sprue map guide, so it's great. It means you can literally take all the parts off, and you can obviously cross-reference any parts to numbers as you go along the build. As with most aircraft, the first step is the cockpit. Now, the actual cockpit is actually pretty good for its age again. There's actually quite a lot of details on the instrument panels. I've actually, the other thing I've actually done is I've started to sand that off because I actually picked up a photo etch set. It really is just the cockpit instrument photo etch, so there's no seat belts or anything like that on this particular one. It is one of the Edgard self-adhesive, although I'm probably going to use I don't find the stickiness on these particularly good. I've only used them once before and it was actually quite disappointing, so I'm probably going to use either PVA type glue or some super glue, or I've actually made up, some of you may have seen if you member of Flory or just watched his news show, I've made up with some plastic styrene and extra thin a sort of styrene glue, which I believe is quite good for photo etch, so we might give that a try, but see how we get on. So yeah, really the first part will be to sand out, which I've actually already removed the cockpit details here, and most of the instrument detail is now gone. I'll probably try and give that slightly more of a sand. The seat belts, they're one-piece seat belts. Sorry, the seats, they're one-piece seats. They're okay. They do have belts with them, molded in. I don't know how well you can see it, so this webcam and the light is not fantastic, but they're just about. It's not brilliant, but it gives you an idea. But I'm probably actually going to do the pilots in the seats on this particular one, because they're actually pretty good. Well, they're really good part. Again, for the age of the kit, the moulding of these pilots is really nice, and it's nice to have them. In a lot of kits nowadays, you don't get pilots, so it's always handy to have some pilots. I think we may need to, I don't know, we may get away without sanding the belts off the seat. We shall have to see how we get on there. I'm not a big figure painter, but to be fair, these pilots really are fairly straightforward. There's no faces or skin tones or anything like that to worry about. Obviously they're in full helmet, so it should be quite straightforward. Should be quite interesting how they come out. I've got a box here basically of all the parts. Most of the parts are removed from the sprue and already cleaned up. Some of the photo etch actually goes into the main body here, so this we will need to sand this away, or use a knife. I've got a better, heavier duty sanding stick here to take this out. There is some quite large part of the injection moulding here, but none of this is going to be seen. Sorry, yeah, camera shot there. None of this is going to be seen. It's a cockpit tub, so we won't see any of these bits here anyway. This is a raised panel line. I don't think I'm going to try and rescribe this, to be honest. They're quite fine lines. I think with care, when we come to sort of cleaning the actual fit, I've test fitted the two halves. They fit really well, actually. I don't think we're going to be left with horrible gaps to be filled and things like that. So I don't think I'm going to rescribe. It'd be interesting to see how to deal. You know, I haven't done actually a raised panel line kit for an awfully long time, so it'll be good to see how we deal with that and what we do to try and you know, with panel washes and stuff like that, see what we can do to get some sort of weathering on there. It'll be a bit of a challenge and something new to try. Anybody's got any tips, you know, let me know. That'd be cool. So yeah, that's the first bit. I think we'll crack on and clean this up here. Try and scrape this away with a knife first off. Get the worst of it. I'll check the actual instructions. Again here, on this side, I think all of these need to come away. It's actually not overly clear what bits you're gonna need to scrape off, really. Looking at this, it doesn't actually replace all of it. But I think we're going to scrape it all off anyway and just use the photo etch. Otherwise it's going to end up looking a bit messy. If you can't get in with a sander, let's hope I have a better. There we go, that's better. Slightly rougher sanding stick to start us off here. You can use a knife if it's easier to get it started than just give it a final sand. This has got a three-tone camouflage, so I'm going to try some different techniques on that. Probably going to use some masking fluid, see how we get on. Do this same with this part as well. Not the most exciting part of the build. We'll try, in fact I think we'll leave those blocks there, see how the photo etch matches up. We may need to come back and sand a little bit more. Probably don't need to be too careful here, the actual tub will obscure it and all the scratches and marks. As you can probably see from here, the tub pretty much sits there. In fact, there's some quite nice bars there. Yeah, so yeah, wouldn't have seen actually. Yeah, you would just about see it all once it's in. I haven't tested fitted it other than basically the fuselage is here. I haven't test fitted anything else, but it fits look pretty good. It doesn't look particularly warped or distorted. Obviously this is a Revell Reebok, so it's not. It hasn't been sitting around for quite as long as the original monogram kits would have. I actually had the chance to buy either this Revell kit of this conversion or the monogram kit, which would be exactly the same. I think the monogram kit, funnily enough, was in black styrene, and of course it would have had much older decals, whereas you know the Revell decals are normally pretty good. So it'll be interesting to see how they go down. Again, like most more modern aircraft, I say modern, loosely, because obviously this is a 60s aircraft really. There's quite a lot of stenciling, so it'll be interesting to see what the quality of the decals are like on that one. Right, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video for a second. No, in fact, we've got to decide on the colour for the interior. Now, it's G is the reference, and G on this is light grey. I've got a whole host of light greys. Probably going to go with Tamiya over here on the shelf, XF66 light grey. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment. I'm going to take these basic bits to the spray booth and get my light grey coating, and then I'll come back. Cheers. Okay, I'm back. We've sprayed this with the Tamiya light grey. I've actually started the photo etch here because I thought you don't really want to watch me sticking photo etch on for hours. It would get slightly boring. As you can see, really nice little bit of photo etch here. It's all gone down quite nicely. In fact, I've actually used these are self-adhesive, which I think I mentioned. Stuck down nicely, actually, no real dramas. I used a little bit of super glue for the sort of display here, but the rest of it's actually and the cowling here at the top. Part of the process was to actually remove the plastic cowling, cut this away, and then put this sort of piece of photo etch on the top. That's been stuck with super glue. I tend to use the deluxe materials because I prefer this one. This is the thick, non-runny stuff. I tend to find it doesn't go hard in the bottle, which is nice. Some of the other super glues I've used in the past, they just seem to go solid after a few months. Whereas this stuff I've had, can't remember when I got this, probably a year or so ago. And also it's a big bottle. It's quite expensive, but it's a big bottle. There's plenty in there. It's probably lasts me for a long time. So there's that one. Okay, well let's crack on with the next display here. Basically, I've got here a couple of bits of tools. I've actually got a small photo etch bender here, which is quite useful. This was part of a kit. This sort of plastic edge to help you cut straight and cleanly, and this sort of plastic a bit of perspex, I suppose, thick perspex here. You don't want to be cutting on a mat because obviously there's a certain amount of flex which can often bend the photo etch in the wrong way. So this little bit of hard plastic's absolutely ideal for this. So let's start with this bit here. Let's focus over so we can see what's going on. So the first part of this is step 1. I would have thought that's actually the last part to go on here, so that's slightly confusing. I see. Let's say start with that one. Okay, so the first bit is part 4, which is this bit here. You can use this sort of edge here, nice and close. Nice new sharp scalpel blades, always best. Oh, you will have to watch this because I managed to get super glue on it. I don't really want to be sticking anything together yet. As I say, the adhesive backing on these is actually better than the previous set I had. The previous set of photo etch, the stick, it just had no stick in it whatsoever. But this one's actually pretty good. This one's actually going to need a slight bend, so you may be able to see from the instructions there. This small tool's ideal for this. I've actually got one of these tools as well for bending, although I find this one's for basic easy bends, it's actually quite good. So we line it up there. Let's give it a slight bend. It doesn't look like it needs a lot looking at the curvature on the plastic part. Another bend there. What I have noticed is I haven't actually cleaned up this. Now I've painted it, you can see the areas where you haven't removed the original instrument detail. It's almost a bit of a shame really to scrape this off, because for a kid of its age it's pretty good. And if you were to be painting it yourself, I think you could, with a bit of careful dry brushing and a bit of careful painting, you could actually get a really good result from without using the photo etch. Now this one's interesting. The fit of this is not as good. The first one, the actual fit was much better. This is almost too big, although I think we can just test it in this piece here, check the alignment, see how it looks. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Obviously the real test will be once it goes into the fuselage halves. I have actually done these fuselage halves. There's only a couple of small photo etch pieces here and here, and the same on here. They've been stuck down with super glue to make sure they hold. So we've then got part one, which, as it's round, I'm going to try and do this freehand. Now this bit is supposed to have a cowl around it. You may be able to see it here, part 36. Now unfortunately the one for this first one has already been lost to the carpet monster, so unfortunately one of these is not going to be able to have a cowl. Going to get a little bit of super glue for this bit, because I found one of the reasons unfortunately this got lost, the cowl around here, was I put it to one side where I restuck this part, because I found because the glue didn't really hold it particularly well, so I wanted to take it off and put a bit of super glue on, and that's when unfortunately the part disappeared somewhere into the carpet. I may try and have another look, but I've not had a lot of luck finding it so far. I use cocktail stick. Always have a ready supply of cocktail sticks for this sort of thing. Just a tiny piece in there. And then carefully line it up there. Luckily, because it's thick super glue, it takes a little bit longer to dry than the thin, so you get a little bit of time just to maneuver it about like that. The cowl, now this one actually has got two pieces that need to be bent. There's a kind of square part here, 35. Can't see for looking, 36, 37. Interesting, can't actually see 35. Maybe that part is 35, that part's 37 then. I think it must be this piece here, 35. Cut these off. This is where it gets quite challenging. You've got to start bending these very tiny pieces. You do need to have good eyesight. Luckily, my close vision is pretty good. Without my glasses, I can't see anywhere in the distance, but touch wood, close up, I can still see these things. Now, I don't know whether it matters whether we do the square one first. We're going to give this one a go. Now, this one looks like it's already scored here. So, folding it, if we're careful, we may just be able to do like so. These are the bits that is much easier if you can do it this way. Let's hold it there. This is we're then going to need to add a couple of tiny bits and just very carefully put the super glue like so, and then this will go around this part like that. place. So the good thing about this sort of super glue is you do get a bit of time to move things about. Not the squarest thing in the world, but that's not bad. And we'll have a bit of fun with this piece. Now this is the really fun part, because you've got to try and curve this around, which is going to be a bit of a challenge. Yes. Okay, that doesn't look quite like it should, but let's see what we can do with it. Again, because we've got this square part around this particular one, this is not looking as square as it ought to be. And now blowing that was impossibly a mistake, because now I've lost. No, there it is. Let's put this over here out of the way. I might use a little bit of accelerator here. I really want this to try and square up a little bit. And grab a bit of tissue somewhere. Stuff that new Vital Bond super glue activator, really handy stuff. If you haven't got some, I recommend it. Helps to speed up the process of the drying, and generally it does evaporate fairly quickly. A bit of blue tack that I stuck to it earlier. Okay. We've got this tiny bit to try and shape a little better here. Oops. These tiny pieces can be a little bit challenging. I'm not sure that's going to ever quite take on the shape that I want it to. I'm sure there's a knack to this. That's a bit better. Or not. It's supposed to go around here. Fortunately, it's not particularly. It doesn't look too bad. I think we can just about live with that. Let that dry. We can start cutting out the next part here. So step 2 is part 9. Which is this part here. This kind of all metal backing part here. Look, this is actually 3 pieces to make this particular instrument panel. So you've got this kind of backing, which is going to make you're going to bend to make the surround, and then you've got the actual dials, and then the front part here. So again, this part's going to need some bending. May need to clean this up slightly if we can. Sharp knives are normally sufficient to take off these sort of. Oop. Yes, you have to be very careful with these bits that are designed to bend. Okay, that's cool. So this looks like it bends a number of ways actually. Quite a tricky one, this. You've kind of got to bend it so it's not the most exciting thing to be watching. I kind of gotta struggling to bend this at all with this. That's better. Bend that there, that's it. And then looking at the picture here, this part kind of bends like that. And then it bends forward. It makes sense to bend it forward to begin with, but never mind. And then actually this is where it gets tricky. These parts here bend forward, and this part bends down. To bend these up to get to it. Be careful not to bend these too much because they can snap off these small parts. Okay, looks reasonable. And then this bit is going to go over here. It's actually designed to stick out slightly. We're going to need a bit of super glue for this one, I think. On here, and down here. So. And with that. Okay, that bit's in. Then the next bit here that we've got is number 5 and 25, which is obviously these bits here. I'm going to cut these freehand, I think. Sometimes it's actually easier depending on the type of piece you're cutting. This is the back part with the instruments. Now in theory that is quite sticky, but we will pop a little bit of super glue on there, I think, just to make sure. And then hopefully, if everything's done correctly, I probably should have tested this first. Let's get a clean Cockpit stick here, just to gently push it into place, and that looks. Okay, we may need to leave that for a minute. Come on. Oh, okay. Put it here. Right, what do I do? I'm going to pause the video for a minute, let that dry. I'm going to do a little bit more off camera, save boring you to death, and I'll see you soon. Right, okay, so the photo etch is now done. I don't know how well you're going to see this on this particular camera. This is the rear instrument panel. It's fantastic, really nice bit of photo etch, looks really good. I'm sorry the webcam here isn't brilliant, but hopefully we can get it to focus in there. You can see that it's actually quite nice. I don't know, I might be able to zoom in a bit better in a second. Let's see if we can give you a slightly better. I don't think it's going to focus. I think that's about as good as we can get it. But it looks nice. It's all gone together quite well. It's a fairly simple process. No real dramas. I started to glue the front fun in here, and we'll get this one glued in. Now, using a bit of Tamiya, just zoom back out slightly here. Using a bit of Tamiya extra thin, I'll just get that glued in here. And let's get a bit down the back here if we can. Into place there. Let that dry. It's all looking nice. Now, what I've done here, again, we've been off camera. Let's zoom out slightly again. I started just to test fit a few things. We've got this kind of central stabilizer here for the wings, which helps attach the wings. Basically, going through the instructions, we've basically got obviously the instrument panels here, which we've really been following the photo etch instructions. The seats are painted and put in later. Once we'll get the control sticks in, painted properly, and we'll get a wash in there as well. I'll do the seats separately, get them in. And really the next component here is you've got the wheel well going in, and you've got the cannon at the front here. Now I've already cemented those in here, bit of extra thin. The wheel well is quite good. It's got a couple of, you've got these sort of plastic pins here to line it all up, which is nice. It seems to fit well, and that's sort of cemented in. Again, you're probably not going to see it that well, I don't know, but there's quite a nice bit of detail in here. Again, we'll paint that afterwards once the kit's assembled. Get some wash in there to sort of hopefully highlight those various pipes, hydraulics and brake pipes, things like that. You then got this cannon part. The fit of this is a bit vague. Oops, it takes a bit of fiddling, I think, to get it so it looks about right. Not the best, most detailed thing in the world, but it looks okay. And that's really it. Once we get to that stage, once the cockpit is cemented in correctly, the next phase of the instructions is really to cement the two halves together. Cement the two halves together here, and then we'll go on to the wings and horizontal stabilizers, some bits for the sort of intakes, air intakes here, and then the engine actually slots in once the two fuselage halves are glued together, which is probably better. It means I can really concentrate on trying to get these lined up and seam free as possible. Obviously, being raised panel lines, I want to try and avoid a lot of sanding and filling if I can, because all of that will destroy any of the raised panel lines, and then it's almost impossible to reinstate them as it is, I think we're going to end up losing a lot of these raised panel lines here, because there'll have to be some sanding to get rid of the seam, even if we manage to get a really good fit, which I think we will. And as I say, I've already test fitted this here. I mean, obviously the instrument panel isn't, the cockpit tub isn't in there yet, but everything seems to go together quite nicely. Certainly, I'm confident along the top with care. We'll concentrate there and make sure we don't end up with any seam lines along the top, or at least as little as possible, so to avoid too much sanding to destroy these raised panel lines. Obviously on the bottom it may be a bit trickier, and we may lose, I think we will end up losing some of the raised panel lines, but there's just not much we can do there, not unless we decide to, unless I decide to rescribe the whole thing, which I think is unlikely. I want this to be quite a simple, straightforward build. I think it's going to look quite a nice, impressive aircraft once it's done. It's quite a large, as you'll see, probably you can tell from my size of my hands. It's quite a big beast. I'm going to probably start to struggle to find room on my display cabinets for this, but we shall see. I think the only thing that's going to cause me a bit of trouble in the lineup process is this tail here. But again, I think as long as I'm careful, plenty of close pegs, might see if I can try and find some rubber bands, I think we're fine. Okay, so let's put that to the side for a minute. So really the next part here is going to be to get these control sticks in. Looking at the instructions, I don't think there's much in the way of painting needs to be done. Let's just have a quick look what the instructions recommend. So we've just got G, which is the main light grey, and E, which I suspect is going to be black or anthracite. What did I say? E, yeah, anthracite grey matte, which is pretty much a black grey. So we'll get those painted, get those installed, and then I'm going to come in with a wash. I can't lay my fingers on at the moment. I really do need to get this a bit more organised. Here we go. We've got a sort of ink wash, black ink wash here, which will get done, and we will then get it installed, and I will come back with part 2 after that's completed. Cheers, thanks for watching.